evening and welcome to another exciting show. Now, you're probably wondering, where's Deb and where's John Hamer? Well, John Hamer is here via Skype. So he's here. So say hello, John.
Hello, John.
Yeah, so he's here, but you won't be able to see him. And what I've done, I've got a picture of him. Here he is. So when he's speaking, there he is. You see, hey. So we got it cracked. So I do hope you can all hear John or heard John. Let's have a quick look in comments, see if we heard him. So Aunt Sally's in. Oh, hello, Aunt Sally. Was it evening, folks? Just pop into the shops. Morning, all. That's Paul Johnson, New Zealand as well. So we're very international. So that's good. So, John, could you just say a few words or, what we're going to talk about tonight? And then I've got a little introduction and then we go back to the main thing. So what are you going to talk about tonight, John?
Yeah, well, tonight, Chris, I'm going to be talking about a shipping disaster that was not the Titanic, but which changed history.
Now, that is mega interesting. So, it was not the Titanic over 100 years ago that changed history. And Louise, Tom has come through. It's loud and clear. Yippee! Because what we think the problem was, hang on, we got this strange person coming on. Here she is. Hello, Debbie. Have you a note from your parents, please? Because you were a little late.
Yes,
that's
good.
Lines as well?
Yeah, I've got lines as well.
Yes. Hang on, and we got John. So, hello, John. Say hello.
Hello.
And he's coming through loud.
Hear Deb.
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do, as John's talking, I'm going to go so we can do a reaction of last week.
That'll work.
Now, look, I've got look at that. How about that then? That's a bit posh, isn't it?
Oh yeah, don't look like him, but there he is.
That's it. Yeah.
By the way, Chris, before you start,
I
can't hear Deb.
That's strange, isn't it?
Yeah,
never mind. I won't say anything then.
Yes. Or do you say that about John? My word, I didn't know that.
Yeah, drop me right in it, why don't
you? But it's a very strange thing. What's happened? John couldn't hear the introduction tune. He can't hear Deb, so it's just coming through one feed, which is Skype. Now, hang on a minute. If I added you to Skype, Deb, then you would be...
Don't mess about. Mess about.
Let's not mess about. Let's just keep it as it is.
Anything I need to ask him.
Not that I don't want to hear Deb's dulcet tones. It's just that I don't want to screw it all up.
We don't want to screw it up. Now, first of all, before we start, what's coming up in future weeks? We've got next week. We got Michelle coming back.
Yes,
so that's good. And on the 2nd, I think it's the 2nd of January, we've got Professor Moss coming back with a very, very strange piece of synchronicity.
Ooh.
Now, I got booted out of a place called Stand in the Park about a month ago. And guess who else got booted out? Of a different one somewhere else, Professor Moss.
Oh.
And she is brokenhearted. And she's shocked by it. And I'm shocked by it as well. Not by Professor Moss getting booted out, but myself getting booted. So, and by the way, they're all having their Christmas meal tonight. And it's all snowy and that. So, I hope they're enjoying it. Yes. But no, actually, there's no animosity or anything like that, because I always believe with karma, you should always think nice things of
exactly
nasty things to you. So that's it. But what happened, you see, Professor Moss and I are going to expose quite a lot in January.
Keep it clean, Chris.
So we're keeping it clean. We're not exposing ourselves, but no, she's got a theory about certain things. And remember, she's a professor. And the person that's been advising me, who's qualified in psychology, may be on at a later date. And who's backing me. And who said I'm telling the truth and everything is. So she's got quite a lot So it's going to be quite an interesting. But we're not going to stir up any trouble. We're not going to have any
No.
problems because I'm not going to mention what happened. We're not going to. That's off the board now. That's gone. But the good thing is now we haven't got any trolls from those people from where I got booted out of tonight because they're all eating their meal. So
yeah, nice.
So we say naughty things about them. No, we won't. Anyway, that's enough of what I was saying about that. But as I say, we've got to keep within the law. We're not going to mention there's no animosity or anything like that. That's past. It's gone. But what we're going to mention with Professor Moss is, well, we'll have to see on the second of January, and also later date with a qualified psychiatrist, well, not only psychiatrist but counsellor and all that, who was establishment but is now anti-establishment and awake. So
right.
Interesting. Anyway, shall we get on with the show? So, John, this ship that sunk, and so far away, John, over to you.
Okie dokie, yeah, all right. Well, I know you're all absolutely in suspense, waiting to hear which ship it was, and it was, in fact, the Lusitania, which I'm sure most of you have heard of.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell the story about what really happened, not the sanitized version we get in the mainstream, because that's what I do. So, yeah, I mean, it took place in 1916, and it was, which was obviously partway through World War One. Just to set the scene a little bit for World War One. At the beginning of the war, Germany initially they had this westward onslaught towards Paris, and then they were halted, and that turned into the Western Front, the Maginot Line, which was the trenches stretching all the way down from the North Sea coast right down to the Alps. So it was just trench warfare, for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and it just became basically a bloody stalemate with neither side able to gain the balance. And so, while that was going on, at sea, the British Navy had blockaded Germany, and German U-boats were attempting to counter the blockade by sinking as many British merchant ships as they possibly could. Now, of course, the men with small hats on both sides of the Atlantic, if you get what I mean, were all desperate to drag the US into the war against Germany. And the guy who was the Lord of the Admiralty, one of our favourites, Winston Churchill, and President Wilson's Marxist advisor, Edward Mandell House, colluded together and believed that if the Germans could be enticed into sinking a British ship with Americans on board, then the massive public outcry that would ensue in America would be such that Wilson's promise never to involve the US in the European war would be instantly forgotten. And thus America would be drawn against her will, in inverted commas, into the war, which is obviously another classic Hegelian dialectic situation. So what happened? Churchill and Woodrow Wilson, financed by the bankers, arranged for a large, massively illegal shipment of weapons, because it was against US law to put weapons or ammunition on a passenger ship traveling to either Britain or Germany, onto the Lusitania in May of 1915. Beg your pardon, it was 1915. I think I said 1916 at the beginning, didn't I? Anyway, the Lusitania itself was a luxury ocean liner, which was owned by the Cunard Line, British shipping line, and officially it was part of the British Auxiliary Navy. She'd been commandeered by the British government for war use, and for which the ship's owners were paid £218,000 a year, incidentally. Now, as an auxiliary navy ship, the Lusitania was under orders from the British Admiralty to ram any German ship seeking to inspect her cargo. That was known as the ram rules, and this was something that Winston Churchill devised as Lord of the Admiralty. Now, 3 German spies attempted to confirm that the 90 tons of unrefrigerated butter, as it was described, destined for a British naval base, were actually weapons and ammunition. However, they were discovered and they were detained on the ship to prevent word getting out. But the weapons had actually been seen by ethnic German dock workers as they were being loaded onto the Lusitania in New York, and they reported this to the German embassy, like good patriotic men. So, in order to warn any would-be American passengers about the weapons shipment being carried, which would obviously make the Lusitania a legitimate target for its U-boats, the German embassy attempted to place an advert in 50 US East Coast newspapers. Now, these ads were to be printed with a date of 22nd of April 1915, but the US State Department managed to block them all, significantly except one, and this is the reason that we all know that this is actually a true representation of the facts. Now, a guy called George Vierek from the German embassy protested to the US State Department on the 26th of April that ads were being withheld from publication, and he even met with the Secretary of State, a guy called William Bryan, and produced copies of the Lusitania's supplementary manifests, which obviously showed all of the weapons that had been loaded. Now, Bryan, he was obviously unaware of the plot, or at least he said he was, and he was impressed by this evidence of the plan to ship illegal weapons on Lusitania, immediately sanctioned publications of the warning. However, someone superior to the Secretary of State, somebody like Colonel Mandell House or even President Wilson himself, overruled Bryan. Now, significantly, Captain Dow, who was the previous captain of the Lusitania, had resigned 2 months earlier because he was no longer willing to carry the responsibility of mixing passengers with munitions. And he had a close call just two days previously, and was aware that the rules of naval warfare had changed in October 1914, when Churchill had issued orders that the British merchant ships with munitions or contraband must ram U-boats. Now, prior to this change, by Churchill, of course, both England and Germany adhered to what were called the cruiser rules. Now, the cruiser rules enabled crews and passengers to escape in lifeboats before the ships were fired upon. But with the advent of the new Churchill ram rules, as they were called, German U-boats could no longer risk surfacing to issue a warning and therefore attacked while still submerged. So in other words, it kind of backfired because, you know, the advent of these ram rules meant that Germans were now more likely to attack without warning. In fact, that is exactly what they did. Now, we know what the ad said because there was a single one that slipped past the government census, and it appeared in the Des Moines Register. Now, Des Moines is I think it's the capital city of Iowa, isn't it? Anyway, it appeared in that newspaper on the 22nd of April, 1915, and it said, and I'll read it out, it said, "Notice, travellers intending to embark on the Atlantic voyage are reminded that a state of war exists between Germany and her allies and Great Britain and her allies, that the zone of war includes the waters adjacent to the British Isles, that in accordance with formal notice given by the Imperial German government, vessels flying the flag of Great Britain or of any of her allies are liable to destruction in those waters, and that travellers sailing in the war zone on ships of Great Britain or her allies do so at their own risk. The Imperial German Embassy." Okay, so I don't know if you want me to just pause there for a few minutes, Chris, and discuss that so far, or do you want me to plough on for a bit?
Well, yeah, we can do. The thing is, we've got funny noises on there. As I'm talking, we got the.
Gremlins are in.
Right. Shall I? I'll switch YouTube off.
I don't know if it's YouTube. I don't know what it is.
Well, I've switched my YouTube off, but has that made any difference?
It has. Yeah, that's better. You can switch it back on again when you're speaking if you want. That's an idea.
No, it's fine.
Well, everybody.
So do you want me to carry on? Or
why not? I think that's a good idea. Carry on. So
all right,
far ahead.
Just listen. If you want to interrupt me at any point, just interrupt me. It's difficult because I haven't got the vision, so I can't see what's going on.
I know it's a bit difficult, but we're going to try and sort something out because I think now, is anybody technical out there that might be able to help? I think it's a graphics card problem. Might be. We just don't know. But some computers do have a problem with StreamYard. So, you know, and we'll try and work something out better where probably in the future, Deb and I will get on Skype as well as yourself. And then we'll be able to hear each other. Whether that will cause a technical problem, I don't know. But we could do a test run on Facebook like we did.
I don't know if there's been any changes to StreamYard, but I mean, it used to be okay, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, when we tried it out on Sunday, I mean, it was the worst we've ever had. It was all like, and I said, we'll turn the camera off because normally Vision soaks up a lot of you know, streaming, and that's it. And what happened? You turn the camera off, and it's exactly the same. It's still So the only way I could do it is via Skype. Also, I found out with Zoom we can't have a chat room. That's the thing. You know, there's loads of other ones, but now hang on. Louise has come up with something here.
Okay.
First of all, Sue Cole says, "I'm sorry I'm late." Well, it's the same as Deb. Lines and detention, I'm afraid. And also we got Louise says, maybe go on Skype. I don't know. I think you're only allowed so many people.
Yeah, it's a bit limited.
Anyway, shall I carry on?
Yes, please carry on.
All right. So anyway, Lusitania, at that point in time, she was the most famous ship in the world since the demise of Titanic. And she was the Cunard Line's crown jewel, you know, and she became the ship of choice for any discerning traveller trying to cross the Atlantic. She had a capacity of about 2,200 passengers and about 850 crew. She could cruise at an average speed of around 25 knots with a top speed of about 27 knots, which is slightly over 30 miles an hour. Now, first class accommodation were the equal of those of the Titanic and obviously the Olympic, and all classes enjoyed a really highly comfortable, wonderful experience, you know, sailing across the Atlantic. However, the rest of the story is history. Some of you out there might know it, some don't, but I'm going to go into details about it now. So on the 7th of May 1915, just off the southern coast of Ireland, Lusitania was sunk by U-20, which is a German U-boat under the command of Captain Walter Schweiger. Now, the 1st of May is a special date in Illuminati circles. As many of you know, it's the day of Baal or Beltane, the Devil's Day. And this day also has significance as the day chosen to celebrate communist Russia's revolution by its founders, the same bankster cartels that funded America and British war efforts. Now, the following quote that I'm going to read out is from a 2004 article from one of the most reliable intelligence sources, former intelligence sources, now a guy called Anthony Thomas Trevor Stokes, who was known to all truth seekers simply as T. Stokes, and obviously he's now sadly deceased. I say obviously, but it was well in his 90s when he died. So anyway, this is from T. Stokes, and he said, and I quote, first bearing in mind that he was is an intelligence service whistleblower, I quote, I first heard this story version many years ago from a senior Freemason in London at the Hackney Retired Seamen's Mission. This man's father was present at Churchill's initiation at age 26, and much other relevant info was given in exchange for a large bottle of Scotch whisky. My many years of research says to me that this is true. The Lusitania's sinking created outrage that a passenger ship would be sunk and was a determining factor in bringing the USA onto Britain's side in World War I. Both Pearl Harbor and 9/11 were staged theatre pieces, and so was the Lusitania sunk with the same Illuminati game plan. The ship's captain, William Turner, has shown himself to be fearless, rescuing a man and a boy from a sinking ship and other acts of heroism. He could also obey orders to the letter, but he was not a popular figure with Cunard, who felt that a ship's captain should also have people skills to entertain the passengers en route. Captain Turner was the son of a sea captain, yet lacked these skills and was uncomfortable and silent and would avoid company. Poorly educated and leaving school aged 8, his family wanted him to enter the church because he was a superstitious man who bought a brand new bowler hat before each voyage and was jokingly referred to as Captain Bowler. The Lusitania was sunk off the Irish coast on the 7th of May 1915. The inquest damned the experienced pilot of the Lusitania, Captain William Turner, for not following the established defensive custom of avoiding the U-boats that gathered in the shallow waters off the Irish coast. In fact, he almost ran into them despite knowing in advance where they lay. The inquest also stated that although the Lusitania could outrun the subs, it was going at a much slower pace and not zigzagging as Admiralty practice dictated in its orders, especially as this destroyer escort, HMS Juno, had been strangely instructed to abandon the Lusitania some while previously. Winston Churchill was in charge at the Admiralty. The intelligence received by him and Lord Rothschild, his mentor and financial benefactor, also had access to all the Admiralty documentation, and his war team pointed to the fact that the many German emigres to America had been effective in keeping America out of the war. The worry to Churchill was simply that the US would remain an isolationist, or worse, although America could swing either way, it may yet support Germany. So a plot was hatched by Churchill, a 33rd degree Mason, in the Naval Masonic Lodge and Admiralty HQ, with the bosses of Cunard and the War Department, to sacrifice Captain William Turner, the Lusitania, and 1,198 crew and passengers. The passenger ship that was barred from carrying any armaments would be loaded with both heavy and light armaments and munition within sight deliberately of the many German dock workers. This plan to load weaponry was known to be reported back to the German embassy, which it was. The German reply was to place adverts in the newspapers of the USA and repeat the warnings to both governments of the ship's vulnerability and that any ships carrying weapons would be classed as warships. British and US forces officially dismissed this as scaremongering. Now, Churchill planned the sinking of several ships, among them the HMS Hampshire and the Lusitania, counting on American feelings being high, yet the US authorities were in on it, but like Pearl Harbor and 9/11, it suited their purposes to turn a blind eye. So Captain William Turner was under orders to continue with the voyage. Even though the destroyer escort was recalled, he was told to go slow. His path was plotted by the Admiralty to put the ship in direct danger, is the word used in Admiralty documents. Naval apologists have suggested that the captain may not have known of the weapons on board, but the first mate not only knew, but was issued with a sidearm, so if he knew, why not Captain William Turner? Certainly statements by a New York celebrity, Mrs. E. Jacobs, say many in the Jewish community knew that it contained weapons and would be sunk. The single-page cargo manifest was signed by Captain Turner, but a supplementary cargo manifest 24 pages long was produced after sailing time. This caused a row with the harbour master. This 24-page cargo manifest was destroyed in the mass culling of incriminating war documents pulled together from various sources in the 1960s. Much other incriminating documentation was shredded on the orders of Tony Blair. Be assured it contained a list of light to very heavy weaponry. The ship went down in under 18 minutes from one German torpedo. One torpedo was seen as giving long enough for the passengers and crew to reach the lifeboats, yet we are told from the very few survivors that after impact, a huge explosion occurred on board, well away from the point of impact. It was always the intention of the Churchill-Rothschild-Bankster alliance that the Lusitania would be a sacrifice to bring in the USA to join the British war effort against Germany. Underwater explorer and investigator Robert Ballard is alleged to have told the reporter with intelligence background that the shipwreck he saw on the seabed had a small torpedo entry hole, but significant and unconnected explosive damage which had actually sunk the ship. The inference from this and other info being controlled explosions on board was designed to ensure that the ship sunk. Lord Rothschild, whose banks loaned the British the finances for all wars at colossal interest rates, was part of a syndicate with J.P. Morgan, who was threatening to buy up all the North Atlantic shipping lines, including Britain's White Star Line, so the Lusitania would have been rendered useless anyway. In 1903, Cunard boss Lord Inverclyde took the threat seriously and lobbied the Balfour administration for a £2.6 million loan to build the Lusitania and the Mauretania. Rothschild lobbied against Germany for some considerable time previously, while Nathan Rothschild plotted the downfall of the Russian royal family and the revolution, confiscating the Romanov wealth and bank accounts. Critics have said that Rothschild representatives planned the war to bring about their plans for profit and world government. Rothschild would have followed the rule that profit is all. The same Hebrew root word is behind the terms for both money and God, shekels and shekinah, which explains the money worship. Churchill and the Rothschild syndicate planned to push the German authorities in every way into sinking the Lusitania. This tactic is known in intelligence circles slang as a dangle. End of quote. Very interesting, that, do you think?
Very. And hang on, I've just it's a shame you can't hear Deb, John, but
yeah, sorry,
I'll just change this around. Here we go. What has come up a lot in chat is that the family with the R name, Rothschild, seems to be lurking around all the time. And there was something, a lot of people have said this, if you read biographies, autobiographies, if you read books about the Rothschilds, they never tell you anything about the family, really. It's just all sort of very superficial and very, a lot of people say that you don't find out very much about them.
Well, they're the richest family in the world, but they never appear in any rich lists, in the Sunday supplements and all this nonsense. Right. Their wealth is totally covered up because they don't want people to know how much influence they have got over world events, and they've got massive influence.
That's right. Well, as I say, when you talk about usury scam, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, was it? I can't remember it verbatim. Mind you, I wasn't alive in the 1860s, but look at getting on a bit, But he said, was it? So he feared there was two enemies. I think it was the Southern Army and the Rothschilds. That's and out of the two, it was the Rothschilds he feared the most, more than the Southern Army.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. I've seen that as well.
Yeah, but now this is interesting what Louise has said. History repeats continuously, only some of the details change.
Yeah, it's very true, Louise. Well said.
That is well said. And also, what we learn from history is we don't learn from history. That's that's the thing. This is Kath Holdsworth. So strange how many accidents that have the Rothschiller name name attached. That is interesting. And also Louise Wilcox says J.P. Morgan, another dark spirit.
Yeah. Well, he was obviously the guy behind the Titanic stuff as well. So yeah.
Now this is interesting. What Paul Johnson in New Zealand. Oh, good morning, Paul. It says, and by the way, it's your springtime, I think now, and we've got 6 inches of snow here, and it's freezing. So there we go.
Yeah.
It says, bit of a worry when individuals have more dosh than governments.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's always been the case, hasn't it?
Yes.
It makes a mockery of democracy, Paul. So.
Yeah. Right. Like Kath says there, some folks are too wealthy.
Anyway, shall I continue? Or is there more?
Hang on. Deb's just talking. Sorry, you couldn't quite hear her. I'm so sorry. You can't hear her.
I can't.
Just said some folks are too wealthy, corrupt for the rich list. I'm sorry, Deb, but it's only the people. Right. Do you want to repeat that one? Yeah.
Keep going.
But actually, as one here you could read out. What's this about, John? Oh yeah, is it?
Very funny.
Don't get me into trouble.
Should be on the stage, you.
Yeah, well, as long as you want the custard beforehand, you should be okay. All right. So, yeah. So, okay, far away, John.
Yeah. So, right. On the 28th of May 1915, Germany's official response to the US government protest stated that the German government had no intention of attacking US vessels which were not guilty of hostile acts, which was fair enough. But it also said, and again, this is another quote, and this is from the German official response, it said that the Lusitania was one of the largest and fastest English commerce steamers constructed with government funds as auxiliary cruisers and is expressly included in the Navy list published by the British Admiralty. It is, moreover, known to the imperial government, that's the German government, from reliable information furnished by its officials and neutral passengers that for some time practically all the more valuable English merchant vessels have been provided with guns, ammunitions and other weapons and reinforced with a crew specially practiced in manning guns. According to reports at hand here, the Lusitania, when she left New York, undoubtedly had guns on board, which were mounted under decks and masked. So, yeah, that official letter also spelled out that the Lusitania had 5,400 cases of ammunitions that would be used to kill German soldiers. And another part of the letter stated that British merchant marine ships received secret instructions from the British Admiralty in 1915 to seek protection behind neutral flags, which is obviously illegal, and when so disguised, attack German submarines by ramming them. Again, that was down to Churchill and his ram rules. So, you know, the German official response that illegal weapons and explosives were on board explains the second explosion. Obviously, that was a secondary explosion triggered by the torpedo. So what they're saying is it wasn't the torpedo itself that sunk it. It was the fact that all the arms and ammunition exploded as a secondary effect of the torpedo, and it was that sunk it so quickly. And for decades, the British and American governments denied that there were weapons on the Lusitania, and the wreck site was even declared a protected zone, denying access to divers, because, of course, they said that it's a grave site. Yeah, well, they come up with all this stuff, don't they? When they come up with any old excuse to deny people from seeking the truth, basically. So no divers were allowed to visit the Lusitania wreck site, and also to further frustrate anyone trying to determine what the Lusitania was carrying. Since 1946, the British Royal Navy has repeatedly dropped depth charges onto the wreck in what was described as target practice. And in 1968, in a blatant attempt to keep the truth secret, the British Secret Service unsuccessfully attempted to buy the salvage rights to Lusitania. And in 1993, Public Broadcasting Systems Online visited the wreck and reported that previous visitors had tampered with the evidence. But the British government continually worked to distort the truth. Weapons were confirmed as being present in the wreckage in July 2006, when a guy from the Cork Sub-Aqua Club found 15,000 rounds of World War issue 303 bullets in the bow section of the ship. And on the 2nd of April 2007, a diving publication called Cyber Diver News Network reported that the American owner of the Lusitania wreck site won the case to conduct salvage operations almost a century after the sinking. So, yeah, it's interesting that the Arts and Heritage Ministry didn't protest the use of the Lusitania in depth target practice operations, but unsurprisingly, did help to respect the sanctity of the site by totally opposing salvage operations. So there we see a total conflict of interest. Yeah, so I mean, many authors have written in the century since it all happened that 1,201 people were sacrificed on the Lusitania to create a reason for the US to enter World War I. So this is not really a new revelation. But the reason you may not have heard of this slant on it before is an obvious one, and that is that the powers that be always wish as few people as possible to know the real truth, so that they can maintain their romantic myths about World War I and the fairy tales of German brutality and aggression in both World War I and World War II. So yeah, an American historian by the name of Howard Zinn wrote in his book A People's History of the United States that Lusitania carried 1,248 cases of 3-inch shells, 4,927 boxes of cartridges with 1,000 rounds in each box, and 2,000 more cases of small arms ammunition. There's no doubt that Churchill and others conspired to deliberately place the ship in harm's way with the hope of sparking an incident that would bring America into World War I by manipulating public opinion against Germany. And, you know, many historians actually support that view, even mainstream historians. So, you know, it's not a surprise. It's not controversial. It's actually, you know, just a matter of plain fact. And Christopher Hitchens, again, is an author some of you may have heard of. He wrote something called Blood, Class and Nostalgia. And he actually also supports the idea that it was a deliberate action by Churchill to coerce America into World War I. Yeah, and
well,
yeah. Sorry, go on.
Actually, Gallipoli was Churchill's cogs up as well, wasn't it?
The what? Sorry,
Gallipoli, which was First World War of D-Day, which went wrong.
I do a stand-up presentation on Winston Churchill, and you know, I outline his crimes from A to Z basically, and they are manifold, believe me.
Oh, crumbs! I mean, you did a fantastic exposure of him on one of the previous programs when you're talking about allegedly he. We won't go too much into it, but he had his mother.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you know, in India, I mean, the mass starvation that he created over there. Yeah. This is what we can go on to a little bit later, and that is fake heroes, because these people are fake heroes.
Absolutely. Well, he's certainly one of those.
Yes. Do you want? Should we go into a little bit of chat? And the thing is, you can't actually hear Deb, and I feel very conscious of leaving poor old Deb out. She's sitting there like this, and I feel very rude. I hope you don't mind.
Sorry, Deb.
No, it's fine.
It's very kind of you. But you could actually, there's one here that Ancient Rubies said. Was this Deb? Was that?
Yeah, every 80 to 100 years, a great reset happens to hide past truths.
Yeah, that's quite.
I did actually star a comment and a question for John here. What is actually illegal when they make the acts and statutes?
This is an interesting. Well, you probably didn't hear that, John. It's Louise Wilcox said. What is actually illegal when they make the acts and statutes?
Say again.
Right, John. What is actually illegal when they make the acts and statutes?
I don't understand.
Well, I think I get what she's at. It says. I think it's a slightly different subject because an act and a statute. Now, I'm an amateur at this, so please don't hold me on it. But I think what she's getting at is that a lot of these statutes are like a business agreement. So, for example, if you get a parking ticket, that is an invitation for you to enter into a contract. So acts and statutes are really contracts.
Yes, they're not laws.
They're not laws.
I understand that. Yeah.
Because real law is natural law, which is injury, loss, or harm. That is a standard law that goes throughout the world, which I'm 100% in agreement with. I think that is a law that we all need to stand by. You must not cause injury, loss, or harm to people. And that's it. You know, that's a good one, though, Deb. Thanks for that. But and also Stewie said, which is quite an interesting one, the biggest problem, hello Stewie, biggest problem of the Rothschilds since the 19th century has been hiding their wealth.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Right.
And Michelle has come up with a good one. Michelle Scouse. Oh, I like that one. Michelle Scouse. Hello, Michelle. By the way, you don't know yet, but you're on next week. J.P. Morgan ordered his precious belongings off the Titanic the night before.
Yes, wonder how he knew.
Right.
Now that slapped my thigh. Isn't that amazing? How you know, what a stroke of luck, isn't it? You know,
being psychic.
Yes. Now there's another interesting one here. It says here, when Morgan died, it was discovered that 80% of his wealth, this is from Stewie, belonged to the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, that's it. You know, it doesn't surprise me at all. But there it says here, Haji has said, we are at probably one of the strangest times in history right now, and living through it.
Yeah.
And well, I actually think that there's something in what George Carlin said. It was something like, we're in one big lunatic asylum, and if you live in the West, or especially the United States, you've got a front row seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is the strange thing about Churchill. It's the Rothschilds and the Churchill, especially around the First and Second World War. The name seems to crop up time and time again with nasty things, that sort of thing.
Well, Churchill was definitely in the pay of the Rothschilds during World War II, when the Rothschilds were very, very keen on destroying Germany. And that's why Churchill was brought in. Neville Chamberlain was ousted because he was seen as an appeaser. He wanted to, make peace. He didn't want war.
This is Second World War, isn't it?
Chamberlain was in at that point in time, on the 3rd of September 1939, when Britain declared war on Germany. Neville Chamberlain was still Prime Minister at that point in time. And then from September 1939 right through to May 1940, we underwent something that was called the Phony War, which again, quite a few people have probably heard of that. Well, what the Phony War was, neither side wanted to make a move. Britain didn't, because Chamberlain was in charge, and Germany didn't, because Hitler never wanted a war in the first place, despite all the propaganda to the contrary. He spent that first 9 months of the war, 9 months of the war, frantically writing letters to Churchill and to Roosevelt, the American Prime Minister at the time, and to the French Prime Minister, and to the Polish Prime Minister as well, trying to prevent the war from actually becoming serious. And of course, they never received a single reply from any of them. Some of those letters are still in existence. You know, we know what the text of the letters are, so we know that's true. But on the 1st of May 1940, when Churchill abruptly replaced Neville Chamberlain as Prime Minister, and it was said that Chamberlain resigned through ill health, which wasn't true at all. He was actually ousted by the powers that be, who really wanted the war. That was the moment that the war started in earnest, and that's when the BEF, 2-3 days later, the British Expeditionary Force sailed across to France and engaged the Germans, and that's when Hitler started the Blitzkrieg. As soon as he got wind that the BEF was crossing the Channel, that's when the Blitzkrieg happened, and he sent all his forces through Holland and Belgium, to get to the BEF in France, because he thought that attack is the best form of defense. So that's exactly what happened. Then, of course, then the next thing that happened was, I'll shut up in a minute, by the way. The next thing that happened was that, the British were pushed back to Dunkirk, and eventually they were all evacuated. And the only reason that there were 330,000 British soldiers that were able to be evacuated from Dunkirk was because Hitler slowed down the attack and allowed them to be, because he was still hopeful that war could be avoided.
Spot right on. And
here
also,
endeth the first lesson.
Yes, and also Churchill was in debt to the sum of £19,500, and he was due to, which is not a lot of money nowadays, but it was a lot of money then, and he was due to lose Chartwell, which was his beloved home, and the city paid his debts off.
Yeah, well, he was getting paid. He was getting paid something, I can't remember what the exact figure was, but he was getting paid thousands every month to follow the orders of the Rothschilds and their ilk, the Zionist banksters.
Paul Johnson says here, thanks, Jeff, for putting that on. Got me thinking. Thanks, John. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But the strange thing is, I mean, there's some good questions here. Now, for example, where are we? It should come on. There it is. Louise Wilcox says, when you have so much money, how do you hide it? By making digital currency.
Yes.
That's very current. That's very good. And there's a very good, there's a question here, John, that I'm not sure you'd be able to answer. So I'm not quite sure. It's a difficult one. It's a teaser. It says
it's not the one about where babies come from, is it?
No. It's not how many legs has a spider. This one, well, it's under a gooseberry bush, isn't it? Now, Stewie says, which book of John Hamer should I buy first? Difficult one, that one, isn't it?
I suppose what you're interested in, really. If you're interested in this kind of history, then the falsification of history, but for more details, Behind the Curtain, volumes 1 and 2.
Yes.
That goes into massive detail about all this stuff.
Yes, it does. And you realise that we've all been told the shit of the bull.
Yes.
That's right. The shit of the bull. But this one's an interesting one, which, come on, what's the matter with this flaming thing? Here it is. Kat Holthworth said, Judah declared war on Germany, correct? In April, I think it was April 1933.
Correct.
That's why they were rounded up in Germany, in such the same way the Japanese were rounded up after December the 7th of 1941 in America.
And also ethnic Germans in the UK were detained, were illegally detained in camps for the duration of the war.
That's right, especially on the Isle of Man. And did you know what the famous, now Alexandra Palace is where the BBC made their first broadcasts from in the, I don't know when, sort of 50s, 60s, I suppose. And you know what Alexandra Palace, which is in North London, was famous for in First World War? And this is 100% true. It was a concentration camp.
Right.
And they didn't hide the fact that it was a concentration camp, because that term was perfectly acceptable in those days. And remember, this is the First World War. And they actually put German men, people of German origin, and they may not have been able to speak German, but because their parents might have been German or they had German origin, they were put in there and they were tortured. They had to eat out of the same pals that they washed the floors with. They kept in bunk beds. They had sergeant majors over them. They were treated horrendously, and they came out absolute wrecks. These men, innocent men, and but it was a concentration camp, Alexandra Palace. If you don't believe me, please look it up. It's true. And that was in the First World War. So this is something that they keep out there. It says what's this there? This one's an interesting one from Louise Tom. Bring on the World Cup final, not into footy, but returnees from the dead, not dead.
Yeah, I've just asked for clarification there.
Yes, I don't understand that one. I'm not.
I must have missed something. She says I've missed a lot, but
don't know. Ancient Ruby has said, great judgment is upon us all, and many wrongly judged others. Egos are ramped up in people, yet many know nothing what is going on behind each curtain, yet act like they know it all. Well, it's funny you should say that, because the show that I'm doing with Professor Moss on the 2nd of January is about egos.
Right.
And it's about people's, and it's about truth movements that have sort of lost the plot. So it's quite sort of. I can't go into detail. We haven't ironed it fully out, but that's what we're actually looking into. Well, she's looking into. And she's, as I say, she's a professor, so she knows what she's talking about. So an anti-establishment professor at that, the Wake one. So there we go. So that should be an interesting one on the 2nd of January.
So shall I just conclude this? There's not much more left now.
Yes, okay, far away.
I'll conclude it and then we can continue the discussion afterwards.
Yep.
So in conclusion, the Lusitania incident played a very pivotal role in turning American sentiment against Germany. But it still wasn't quite time yet for America to enter the war. The Zionist banksters were still biding their time in order to achieve maximum leverage, whilst simultaneously prolonging the conflict before eventually ordering President Wilson to commit to the war. But for the time being, Wilson and his puppet masters were content to merely verbally condemn the sinking while still refraining from entering the conflict. So the British, of course, were very disappointed at the lack of immediate effect that the incident had had. Politicians, journalists, and even the lunatic Teddy Roosevelt all mocked President Wilson as being timid and indecisive. So, in a blatant effort to keep US passions high and anti-German, the British fabricated stories about, first of all, about German school children being given a holiday to celebrate the sinking of the Lusitania. And this fantasy took its rightful place alongside other such now discredited anti-German propaganda, such as that told of German soldiers nailing live babies to church doors, issuing poison sweets to children, and raping nuns. The British knew that they'd eventually need US help if they were going to gain the advantage over the Triple Alliance, the Germans, etc. And the Zionists knew this too, but they were biding the time, setting up the UK and the US for the right moment. And there's a short Churchill quote here that speaks volumes about what really happened and why. And he said, and I quote, "There are many kinds of maneuvers in war. There are maneuvers in time, in diplomacy, in mechanics, in psychology, all of which are removed from the battlefield, but react often decisively upon it. The maneuver which brings an ally into the field is as serviceable as that which wins a great battle." So yeah, on the 7th of May 1915, the Lusitania was sank. It had slowed to 75% speed, hoping that the English escort vessel Juno would arrive. But unknown to Captain Turner, Churchill had already ordered Juno to return to port, leaving the Lusitania alone and unprotected in an area that was known to be swarming with U-boats. And to put this in further perspective, Britain had already deciphered the German communications code in December 1914, much as they did with the Enigma code in World War II. And therefore, the level of detail that was known by the British Admiralty was so precise that even U-boat numbers and general locations were known. For example, the British Admiralty knew that U-30 left the area for Germany on the 4th of May, and the U-27 left the area because of jammed bow planes. It's the German government's official response, as I read it out before. They knew exactly how much ammunition there was on the Lusitania, and therefore they regarded it as a legitimate target, which of course it was. You know, it was illegally smuggling arms across the Atlantic to take part in the European war theatre, you know. So, you know, as I said, Tony Blair deliberately covered it up. He knew exactly what was going on. Berlin announced on the 31st of January 1917 that its submarines would sink all ships aiding Britain. And this announcement, combined with the Lusitania sinking and the British intelligence service manufactured bombshell in the form of a telegram from the German foreign minister to the German minister to offering Mexico money to attack the US, ultimately proved successful. And on the 6th of April 1917, the US did finally declare war on Germany. And the very last thing I will say on this now, apart from any further discussion and questions, is it's a quote from David Lloyd George, who was Prime Minister during the First World War. And he said this to a man by the name of C.P. Scott, who was editor of the Manchester Guardian. And this was December 1917. And he said, and I quote, "If people really knew the truth, the war will be stopped tomorrow. But of course they don't know and can't know." And that's the end of the story.
That's fascinating. That is really, really fascinating, because when you look at it, for example, it's, we've got secrets that are hidden that are just coming out now about the First World War, And what you said about Tony Blair, I mean, he also changed the 1848 Treason and Sedition Act, because that was an act that still continued. That was, I think it was 1848 Treason and Sedition Act, which states that anybody convicted of treason will be hung by the neck until dead. And he actually changed it in 1997 to life imprisonment. But it's null and void, because that act went through in 1848 and it's still hung by the neck until dead. So what these bastards don't realise in power, nobody mentions the word treason.
No.
Now, going back to the First World War, John, what you were saying, I would think that Edward Bernays would have had something to do with the writing, quite a bit of the writing of the propaganda, because he was the propaganda. I'm not sure, minister or agent or something with the American government during the First World War, and he was what they could say the father of
psychology.
Well, not only that.
No, propaganda.
That was it. Public relations.
Yeah.
And now it's called public consultation, which really what it all stands for is bullshit. That's basically what it is, you know. But that's hang on, what's happened? I think oh, hang on, that's it, I'm back again. But you see, the thing is that there were some interesting things. What's this? Now, thanks, Deb, for marking these items up. This is brilliant. Now, are we? It's an interesting one here. When do you think this will all end, John?
All what?
This is from Michelle Scouse.
Michelle Scouse.
No, that's not. That's Yorkshire. When do you think this will all end? This is, I think, the current situation, what's going on, and all these lies and more lies that's been told. It
will only end when people wake up. You know, when the majority of people wake up and realise what's going on, and you know, band together and say we're not going to take this anymore. You know, so I know it's a bit of a nebulous answer, but then again, it's a bit of a nebulous question in many ways, because it's like, how long is a piece of string, isn't it? So yeah, it's a difficult one, Michelle. It may not be in our lifetimes. I'm sad to say, especially mine. But yeah, I mean, that is the key to everything. It is making everyone aware. It's about raising public awareness of all the lies and the subterfuge that is constantly going on in just about every area of our lives.
That's right. And this is quite interesting, because again, it brings, it says, Bob Holyoke, it says, too many egos about does this?
But a bit of DMT will kill the ego.
Yes. It's quite, that's quite interesting. That is, and that is what the subject we're going to, as I say, we're going to talk about with Professor Moss. Egos. That is a very simple thing. Is that governments work on people's ego and things like that. So that's going to be quite sort of interesting. And also regarding truth, the person I'm hoping to get on soon will give advice on how you can tell a person is telling the truth. So that is quite something. And, you know, and we did that test the other week, where I said two truths and one lie, one whopper. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was interesting, you know, and everybody got it right. I'm not very good at lying. I said an absolute whopper one, and what it was is, I think, if I can say it from memory, the two truths were, I've met Chuck Yeager, and I used to have shoulder length hair, and the last one was, I love olives. Well, the answer is the olives, because I bloody hate olives.
Yeah, you say I love olives.
Yeah, so it's sort of, I think what it was, I kind of gilded the lily with it, didn't I? I sort of went a bit too much.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
You know, that's it. Compensate.
You gave yourself away.
I did, didn't I? And I gave myself away earlier because I was going to say about sport. And but anyway, it says here, this is Louise Tom. This was what she said about the World Cup. She's cleared things up because half world population have watched the World Cup. So it's been planned to take place on the 18th. All eyes on the World Cup to start bringing out the truths. That's interesting. Half the world population, all except me as well. I don't watch. I don't know who's won, who's lost. I'm completely ignorant of it. Right. Now we got here Ancient Ruby. Too many high egos around. Isn't it strange that Professor Moss and I were talking about egos, and now everybody's talking about egos? Is it some sort of synchronicity? It's bloody weird, this is. How did you people in chat know? I mean, it's a very strange coincidence that's been happening with Professor Moss and myself. I haven't contacted her for a long time. I did out of the blue. And she said, isn't it strange it's this time? We were talking about this subject. Anyway, too many high egos around and humbleness has gone. Understanding is in hiding. People have lost caring for others. And although it has always been this way, it is far worse nowadays. Ego driving.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It is. And let's face it, we all have a ego as such. That's the thing, you know. And watch the film Tomorrow's War. Incredible film full of comms coming up. That's interesting. What's that?
Another one to write down there.
Tomorrow's War.
Got it.
One I've always said, and I've bored people shitless with this, is you can see it free on YouTube now. It's the 1956 version of George Orwell's 1948. From his book 1948. It was the film that was made, and I think even people condemn it and they say, "Oh, you know, it's a bit old, it's dated," but it was black and white. It was gritty. And they said that the chap who actually the part of Winston was a bit too overweight. Yes, and he's American. Yeah, but he did a bloody good job of acting. And Donald Pleasance was in it. And
I like Donald Pleasance.
Yes, he did. And the girl that acted the part of his daughter, who was a very young girl, must have been about 12 or 13. She was a bloody good actress rather. She really did the job well. Yeah. And there's something about the black and whiteness of it, and they sort of scratchiness of it. It gives it atmosphere because it was actually filmed in the bombed out remains from the London Blitz. Because let's face it, the war didn't get over about 11 years when it was made. So there's still a lot of bomb sites in London where they filmed it. So there we go, you know. But there's another interesting one here. Where are we? When secrets become revealed, which it is now, they make a great reset, which is happening. Yes, have you heard about Klaus Schwab wants everybody to get their pets done in, don't they, to save the planet? I've got a brilliant idea to save the planet. Do them in. Yep, that's the answer. Do anal swabbing, you know.
That doesn't sound quite right, though, that name.
Robbie, I said, don't you mean Orwell's 1984? What did I say? Did I say another
1948.
Oh, 1948. No, it's actually written in 1948, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It's this water. I think it's
well, at least it's not
yes.
At least you're not having to choose this week.
I've got the slime, have I, in there?
Thankfully not.
No, all the slugs, they're not out because of the cold weather. You know, they go squeezing all the gooey into my... Right. We got Michelle. What was it? Thanks to Deb's marking these up. It's ever so kind of her. Now, Michelle says, we've been lied to and deceived to all our lives.
Yes.
Yes.
From birth.
We have. Yes, from birth we have. And I remember when I was at school, you might remember this, Deb, and also John, a poster on the wall showing a little young boy eating an apple. And underneath it said, and it showed you cavemen and women eating apples. And I said, eat apples, it's good for your teeth. Yes, it is bad for your teeth. But bullshit. And when you went to the dentist, they gave you lump sugar. Do you remember that, John?
I do.
Or lollies.
They used to give polio vaccine through sugar lumps as well.
I had one of those. So I had a polio thingy-me-bob. I don't remember any mini injections, but I remember they used the same needle on each one. Yeah. So if my surname begins with P, so I've near the end of bleeding, you know. Right, it says here, ancient ruby, depopulate all the elderly so they will not witness. Yes. And that's what Chairman Mao did. Get rid of the elderly so they wouldn't witness anything. And by the way, did you know that they reckon that people whose surnames begin with A and B and C and that live longer than people with surnames at the end of the list, because precisely what I said. If you're queuing up when you was at school for an injection, the A's and the B's and that, they had it and they're off. Yeah. Yours truly is waiting at the end of the bloody queue thinking, oh Christ, and you're getting all stressed about it. So, you know, you've got to get it done over with.
You see, I was the C because that was my major. So I was a C.
Interesting, maybe.
Yes, because you're near the end, aren't you? With an H, John, aren't you?
Near the end?
No, hang on. Well, you're in the middle, aren't you? Yeah, it's on
the
middle.
Well, it's near the beginning, isn't it? It's like, is it the 8th letter or something? I don't know. Yes. Or the 9th.
It says Stewie's come up with some good ones here. FDR refused Lloyd George as British ambassador in 1940. I didn't know that, Stewie.
No.
Did you know that? Because I know.
No, I didn't know it.
I know that Lloyd George was a great admirer of Mr. H, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes. Well, many people were.
Yes. Yes. Well, in India, where it's viewed differently, they've even got a restaurant named after him, haven't they? You can go. You can actually go in there. I don't know if it's got the swastikas there, but you can actually go in a Mr. H restaurant. Yeah, yeah. I'll have 3 buns, please, and they're over there. Sorry. You're actually going in there and sort of saying, I'll have one of those drinks, please.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get banned off YouTube now. I'm saying that, you know. But it says, Bob Oblio said one, good one here. It ends when people say no. Well, civil disobedience, but I'm not a great fan of Gandhi because I've read a great article, I think Kat sent it through, about he actually delayed Indian independence by about 20 years. With all these, because, you know, that's quite interesting.
It was definitely suspect, was Gandhi. There's no two ways about it. He certainly wasn't the, you know, the man that he was purported to be. Very much like Mandela.
Yeah.
Was this Albert Pike? Hello, Albert. I was hilarious before I lost my ego. 139 mushrooms ruined my Yeah. Says here, Dark Angel says it will only change when the greatest lie is exposed.
Yeah.
Yes, but and it says here, the elite, where are we? The elite won't let it end. Because there's
they might have a choice, though. That's the idea, isn't it? I mean, that's what awakening is all about. If you know, there are only a few thousand of them. There are billions of us, aren't there? Well, there are at the moment. God knows how many there'll be in a few years, like.
Now.
Well, about I think about 10 years ago, there was a bloke going round. I can't remember it fully, but he reckons that the ancient who were the leaders in the ancient Egyptians? They were the I can't think of their name.
Pharaohs.
The pharaohs. Thanks, John. The pharaohs evolved into the elite of today.
Yeah, yeah. Now, and before the pharaohs, it was the Babylonians and the Sumerians. It's been the same families through millennia. Yeah.
Yes, yes. About what's this? We've got here Morgan Le Fay. Hello, Morgan. It's worth remembering, though, that those devils may despise us, but they despise and distrust each other more. Each one wants to be top dog, which will never work. You see, this is something I said earlier in one of the what do you call it? I think it was on Facebook, because I've got a Facebook group called Fog and Hall, plug, which Deb was one of the first members. We're up to well into our 70s now, haven't we? A number of people that's joining, and also there's a sit in the pub in Corby on Thursday, which is advertised on there. So anybody in Corby area. So it's building up, and what was it I was going to say now? I forgot what it was. What I said. Sod it. Oh, that's it. Nice people don't get to the top.
No.
Mr. or Mrs. Nice person does not get to the top.
No.
Mr. or Mrs. Ruthless Bastard gets to the top.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is what I can't understand, why people worship people like Elon Musk and Trump and people like that. I'm sure that let's face it, if you've got good PR,
yeah,
I've never met those people. They might be very nice. I do not know, but I'm sorry. Do you know of anybody that's an empath that's got to the top?
No, because I don't like people like that.
Sensitive people.
Mm.
Yeah, Mother Teresa turned out to be the nastiest. Yeah, you stand there.
Because they have feelings, and people that get to the top don't have feelings.
Correct.
Or personality.
Yeah.
Well, they do, but it's all put on.
Well, that's it. Now this is an interesting one. It needs to be addressed, Chris. So the masters of the universe are pushing us together. That's food for thought. It's food for thought. But I always think that these bastards are psychopaths, and psychopaths, according to Dr. Hare's come very close. He's a leading authority on it, Canadian doctor, and he reckons that he did say, and he didn't sort of say it in these sort of words, but they are a different breed of human. They're not quite human. It doesn't matter what race, religion, or what they are. You get these bastard psychopaths everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is what what gets me. There's somebody talking on YouTube on a channel I look at. They're saying, well, they're generally nice. People are in politics and that to do good generally. Bullshit. Bullshit. No. I mean, you might find people going to politics to do good, but they're not there for very long.
No.
Might be going into politics to do good for themselves, not for anybody else.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Was it that writer? Was it Adrian Moore? One of those people. He said that he was, I suppose, was a journalist, and he was asked to become a Commons reporter. And he said the first thing that hit him was that all of the MPs, and he was going back to the 1950s and 60s now, were mentally deranged. He said there was something mentally wrong with them. He was in the House of Commons. He just couldn't believe how bonkers they were, basically.
Oh, sorry about that.
My word, is that the beans you've had? That's better.
Sorry.
God, I think it's the cabbage, actually. That must have been it,
Yeah.
So I had to come out with a fart joke, but ego is essential to process fear, etc., and keep us safe.
All right.
Well, we are all, believe it or not, we're all born narcissistic. We're all born that way, and that is a natural thing. You get two babies, one to push the other one out of the way to get the food.
Yeah.
And it's only when we get older and we learn empathy.
Yeah.
That's why spoilt kids generally lack empathy.
Yeah.
Because they've still got that narcissism in them. And it's because there's two types of narcissism. There's the clinical narcissist and there's the non-clinical narcissist. But it's all to do with our children and how we sort of lose it. So that's why I always believe that people that's had a tough life, the toughest of lives, generally are the nicest people, because they've become more empathic,
Yeah.
But we got Tony's. Here we go. By the way, anybody go to Sainsbury's and ask for Tony's faggots? I'm talking about the meat, Yes, we've got a nice advert there for our faggots. So we'll see that next week. So, you never know. Hatchy. Tony Blair changed the law to protect himself.
Tony Blair.
Blyer, sorry, Tony Blyer.
Tony B. Liar.
They know what's coming, all of them. That includes certain media presenters as well as ex-MPs. That's influencing the public mind. Yes, Jeremy Vile springs to mind. That's why we all need to support my non-existent imaginary fantasy charity, Tree Branch of Hope.
Yeah.
We're making a lovely tree branch and the bastards hanging from it,
Yeah.
Lovely,
There's a comment from Louise. In their world of illusion, only the darkest rise, but in a real man's world, the kindest shine brightest.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
I'd agree with that.
Actually, yeah, this is lovely. So I'll read it out again for John.
Oh,
John,
sorry.
that's all right. No, he wasn't, though.
No,
In their world of illusion, only the darkest rise, but in the real man's world, the kindest shine brightest.
Very nice, Louise.
That's nice, isn't it?
Like that.
Yeah. That's lovely, that is. Oh, that's nice. Yes. What's it? Oh, hang on, we got here. They are a different breed of human. This is Morgan Le Fay. There's no empathy, no humanity, and no love. Observe them carefully, and you'll see there is only death behind their eyes. We'll look at Tony Blyer.
Yeah.
And that's right.
I'd rather not, if you don't mind.
No.
Well, no.
But let's save the world. I think, you remember what ideological subversion is? You don't stop something, you help it. So let's help them. Save the world. Let's bump off Anal Schwalbe and Tony Blyer and all that lot.
There's a, what is it? Dark Angel, maybe we are looking at this all wrong and we need to fight fire with fire.
Well, I think we ought to take piss out of them, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Yes, because we've got these, cities that we're going, won't be allowed out and for so many days to save the world.
Yeah, and we're getting all these clean air zones put round. What's that for?
Yes.
Why does it just affect those areas when it's affecting everywhere else as well?
That's right. And also they want to put out all your boilers, so you can have electric boilers, which are shit.
Doesn't make sense.
That's right. Josh Blackburn says John's book Behind the Curtain, Volume 1, does an excellent job of explaining the reality of World War II.
Thank you, sir.
And I will back that. I will second that because I've got this book and it's a brilliant read, and it's an easy read. It's not a difficult. I've had to read over it. I'm a very slow, extremely slow reader, and after I'll read over it several times, and it is really fascinating, and it really is very logical when you look at it, because and what annoys me is the lies that were told in the First and Second World War are still believed today. The propaganda.
Yeah.
That
down, doesn't it?
Sorry.
Yes, like I mentioned about raping nuns and nailing babies to church doors and all that. It was just anti-German propaganda, but it became de facto truth.
Yeah. But the thing is that what gets me about the Second World War, I said this the other week, you see pictures of French being, inverted commas, liberated, and you'll see the troops spotlessly clean, nice clean vehicles, and the French ladies have all got Union Jack flags, which they were told that they hid them away when the naughty Germans occupied their country, so they could give them hope. So when they were liberated, isn't that a lovely story? Almost
a load of BS.
Yes, it's bullshit, isn't it? You can always smell it come up. And if you see those films, they're still believed today. And you see the troops all nicely, cleanly shaven, And they reckon they were filmed in Herefordshire. There's no evidence for that, but that's what some people believe before D-Day. Louise Wilcox is good. Kill them with kindness. They can't abide anything good, never stoop to their level. Yes, this is why I always believe people get the wrong idea with karma. If someone does evil, evil will come to them or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, karma really is doing a kindness. So that people, for example, who've double-crossed me, who metaphorically stabbed me in the back, and these type of things. I'm not thinking badness of them. I'm thinking kindness of them, understanding of them. That's a far better way of doing it, because hatred is toxic and it actually infects yourself. It infects, whereas kindness and love doesn't, and truth and things like that. And even people, as I say, people that double cross me, I do not show any malice or anything like that to them, because the kindness will win through.
Yeah,
that's the thing, you know.
Right. There's a question for John here, if you would like to ask him it from Dark Angel.
Okay, John, what book have you read that has impacted you more than any other?
That's a really difficult one, Chris. I mean, there's so many, you know, in different ways. You know, I can't think of one specifically that actually affected me more than any other. But I think the one that first set me on this road was called, or is called, "Behold a Pale Horse" by Bill Cooper.
Yeah.
Bill Cooper was, for those who are not aware, he predicted 9/11, and he said that 2 months before it happened, and he said that Osama bin Laden, who most people had never even heard of at that point in time, would be blamed for it. And yeah, his book "Behold a Pale Horse," you know, obviously it's nearly 30 years old now, but it's very, very well worth reading still. You know, still relevant today.
That's awesome.
And Bill Cooper was killed on his own doorstep by the FBI in November 2001.
Whoa. My one was 1984.
Yeah.
I think
1984.
George Orwell's 1984, when I was a kid. That really made me think. Because he was in on it. He knew what was going on. He knew.
Well, he was an insider because he was part of the Fabian Society, which is, you know, it's a left-wing think tank, for want of a better word. I don't like that expression, but yeah, Orwell was a prominent member of the Fabian Society. I mean, he was a staunch socialist, and he fought in the Spanish Civil War. He fought against Franco, didn't he?
Yes. Was it? He wrote another one. Was it Down and Out in
Paris and London?
Yes.
He wrote The Road to Wigan Pier. He wrote Keep the Aspidistra Flying. They're all good books. All very well worth reading.
Yes. And Paul Johnson, who's in New Zealand. John, are your books available here in New Zealand?
As far as I'm aware, if there's an Amazon in New Zealand, Paul, then yes. Failing that, I mean, I could always post you a copy, but obviously the postage might be a bit prohibitive. But if you wanted to email me, and you know, we could organise something if you're really interested.
Let me pop your email up.
I think my email's below, isn't it, Chris?
It's yes. Your email is below, and contact details for John are all below here. So any problems, all up in the description. Oh, ouch! That's my table, by the way, and it's my hand accidentally hitting it.
John's email's scrolling across the bottom of the screen.
There it is.
Screen.
Yeah. But when you look at most of these people, all they do is just plan our destruction. That is actually a death cult. And there was another theory that these wars and these genocides and that are all to appease some sort of demon, devil, or something that they worship.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that one, John?
Say again.
These wars and genocide and that are obviously planned are to appease a sort of devil or demon that these assholes you know, oh blimey, it's a Guinness again, you know. No, that they worship, because it is Luciferian, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, you know, a lot of these, or most of these people, these demons, and they are demons that run the world, are you know, Satan worshippers. So yeah.
Well, look at that thing with the owl that they have and all that. Oh, this is a good one. This is
Moloch.
Yes, yes, crikey. The Jesuits rule the New World Order, as Revelation 17 shows. Also, behold, a pale horse is from Revelation 13, I believe.
Yeah, that's where the saying "Behold, a pale horse" comes from. Yeah, that was the name of Bill Cooper's book. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But now this is an interesting one.
Just to interrupt for a second, Chris, I'm going to have to go in about 5 minutes' time. Okay. So.
Okay. Well, I've heard by those sounds. I think you might have to go just to save something. You know.
Very funny.
Yeah.
It says Louise Tom says also the 1,000 years of peace coming up. Well, they say there was a time when people were at peace. I do not know. That is interesting. And this is another interesting one we got here. Now it says we were signed over to government at birth registry. Yes,
definitely.
Birth certificate. Yes, because now it says now what's this one? It says here. I feel sorry for the Smiths thing, Chris. Oh, they were the ones.
No, in the queue for the jab.
Yes.
The Watsons are the worst. Right, that's one from John there.
None dare call it conspiracy. That book I read in 1977, and I have hardly been fooled since then. So none dare call it conspiracy.
Yes, I'm going to write that down as well.
That's John Basinglow. I think you're in America, aren't you, John? If I might remember rightly.
I think so.
That's right. I was at Alabama. I think Alabama. Have I said that in an American accent? Alabama. And I have hardly been fooled since then. Yes. There's also an interesting book that a chap wrote, and I can't remember his name, called "We Didn't Go to the Moon." And he was one of the first.
I've read that. John somebody, I think.
He's dead now, but he worked for Rocketdyne, was it?
Rocketdyne.
Rocketdyne,
yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of his name.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Ralph Rene.
Was it? Yeah. Really nice chap. And he said, that they worked it out, I think, in 1960 something, that they had a 1 in going up for ages, 1% chance of getting someone to the moon and back. In other words, they couldn't do it. He said, did they get lucky? Just a few years? No. But this is an interesting one. Hatchy says, Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, Eric Blair, 1948, all insiders and highly educated people working for the big club, and we ain't in it.
Yeah.
Thank you, George Carlin.
Yeah. George Carlin, yes. And I think he might have been bumped off. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah.
I suspect it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really seeing anything to confirm it, but, whenever anybody dies relatively young, you always kind of suspect it, don't you?
Well, that's it. And this is an interesting one. This is from Bob Holyoke. And by the way, thanks for your loyalty, Bob, mate, because you were on at early hours this morning. So you're one of the first in the chat room. So, you ought to get a brownie point for that, at least.
Get your badge.
Let's put our thumbs up. Good old Bob. Way, or young Bob, rather. So, this cold weather will help them depopulate the old. And that's been going on for ages, because when Margaret Thatcher was in power, lots of elderly died of hypothermia.
Yeah.
People,
Well, I said earlier that this country...
Right, guys, I'm going to have to go, sorry. So
okay.
I've enjoyed that, and I hope everyone else has. And see you all again soon. Yes. If we don't speak before, have a good Christmas and New Year.
And same back, and you'll be back in the new year, John, I'm sure.
Yeah, I will do.
Okay,
yeah.
See you, John. Good night.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
That's it. Oh, where are we? I've lost him. There he is. And I think that we've learned some lessons from this Skype link up. That is
can't hear me.
That he can't hear you. I felt bad for you, Deb.
No,
You've taken it very well. Thank you very much, because you've done a lot of hard work in the background here. But next week, as I say, isn't it all based on maritime law? Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah. And they dress in black because they're in mourning for the loss. And that's why in court you go into the dock.
Yes.
And yes, that's all maritime law.
Exactly.
And also the other one is that the different courts, what's it now? The local court, what they are.
No, like magistrates and
magistrates court. That is actually a place where you do business.
Yeah.
And the late great Robert Newman, who fought a lot of cases, who really knew the law, he said you must never step foot in there. Do everything. Right. And the most powerful person in the court is not the judge, it's the clerk.
Yeah.
He directs the judge.
Yeah.
Or she does, whoever it is, you know. But now, this is an interesting one that Hatchie said. Mr. H got about 98% of the vote when he got in. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
True.
He was. Yes. Well, actually, I thought she was Welsh. She must be passed on by now, but about 10 years ago, a very elderly, and she spoke with a real strong Welsh accent, but she was an Austrian lady. Right. And she was in the German army during World War II. And she was in communications. She's a telephonist or something. And she was in France. And she said that her friend got caught by the French resistance and mutilated before she was killed, tortured. And she said it was stomach churning what they did to her. And she said she was an innocent girl who just worked in I think it was something to do with communications and that, but she actually learned to speak English at evening classes in France that the Germans held, and she met British Tommy soon after the war, who was Welsh, and she went and lived in Wales, and that's how she lost her German accent.
Right.
And I mean, she must be, if she's alive now, she must be over 100, but she's about 90 odd when I spoke to her, lovely woman she was, What's this? John Basinglow. H.G. Wells was a student of the elder Huxley and later Aldous, and Julian Huxley were students of Wells. Wells was a member of the Fabian Socialist Round Table and was a eugenicist like Jonas Salk.
Yes. And
also the founder of, or the civil servant who actually worked out in 1943 the National Health Service in Great Britain when it was actually put into operation in 1948. Strange that 1948 seemed to crop up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yes. What was it now? Beveridge. William Beveridge. He was second in command of the Eugenicist Society. And guess who was? James John's not here to back this up. Guess who ran the Eugenicist Society? Winston Churchill. Yes. And I can prove it because I've got a picture of it. Where are we? Magistrates and Crown Courts. That's right. But I couldn't
think of the other one. I remembered magistrates, but I couldn't think of the Crown.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I think there's a plaque on the wall. Somebody took a picture of it. Where is it? I'm just trying to find that Eugenicist Society thing. The late great John Harris. Strangely enough, there was a video popped up of him, and they said he committed suicide. No way. No. He didn't commit suicide.
It was helped.
I think he was. And here is a picture of the Eugenicist Society. There it is in the 1930s. And William Beveridge, who founded the NA, well, I say founded, he was the, worked out all the administration of it. He was a member of that, and Churchill. Yeah. And what Kat was saying earlier, here is the newspaper report. There it is. I won't read it out for obvious reason, but there it is.
Yeah.
In 1930, it's March. I said April. Wasn't far out, was I? There it is.
A good comment from our Dark Angel. God has been ordering genocide long before these others followed. It's not a coincidence that Hitler wanted to be an abbot and Stalin was in the Orthodox priesthood.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Was it? What was that I heard today? I stopped being an atheist after I clogged my friend's toilet up.
Oh, yeah.
You just, Jesus. I thought it was a classic. But there's some fantastic write-ups, aren't there? I like this one from Kath. And the dynasties were duplicated many times.
Yes.
This is why, I said about the pharaohs. It was a long time ago. I heard a chap talking. Oh, what was his name? Now, Vinnie Eastwood. He's talking to Vinnie Eastwood about it, where the pharaohs didn't really go. They just, shall we say, reinvented themselves.
Yeah.
And they sort of mutated along the lines, Now, it says this is an interesting one. Stewie, the Japanese did the most for Indian independence. Because I think it was it you, Kath? I think Kath sent through a very interesting write-up about Gandhi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, did you read it as well? It's quite an interesting one.
It was.
And there was an independence force in India, and they were almost winning independence, and he came along and delayed it.
Yeah.
He reminds me of that sad guru bloke, sort of what is you talk bloody, was it, you state the bloody obvious, but do it in a raw way. You put one foot in front of the other to move forward, and when it is raining outside, you will get wet if you go out there.
Yeah. When it's cold outside, when you go outside and it's cold.
That's right. Yes, you must not go. Was it woman that cooks potatoes and peas in same pot? Very unhygienic.
Yeah.
that sort of.
Man who walks sideways through door at airport is going to Bangkok. Anyway, just to lower the tone slightly.
What do you call a man with no arms and no legs who swings the channel?
Bob.
A clever dick.
I went for the less rude option.
That's right. Or what do you call a man with no arms and no legs in a pile of leaves? Russell. These are sick little jokes that you heard when you was a child.
Yeah.
The old ones are the best ones.
Yeah.
We got here, was it Louise Tom says, all the world's governments been put on stand down in readiness to be told they're no more. That's right. Well, I don't, Ronald Reagan said something, and I heard this the other day. It's on YouTube, his old sayings, and he said, if government took a break for a month, nobody'd notice any difference. And he's right, actually. I kind of sort of, in a weird sort of way, I kind of liked some of the things he said.
Yeah.
But hello, it's old Robert. Hello, Robert, mate. Hello. A very good evening to one and all. Oh, another late one. Lines for you,
Oh, that's it now.
Oh, I think the cane as well. Oh, yeah, might enjoy that though.
Yeah, we'll leave that out of it.
Do you remember that? What was it there? Years ago. What was it there? Something Times. One of the Monty Python blokes did it. What was it called? Oh, can't think.
Was it Terry Gilliam?
One of them. They said they went to a very tough school where boys went in with the cane to give the headmaster the cane. That was it. They had to go and give the headmaster the cane. What was it there? Something I can't remember what it was, but it was actually on YouTube. I found it, and apparently it was something that was on in the 70s or something. But I've just recently discovered it on YouTube, and it's bloody hysterical. It really is. It was that bloke who went round the world. Oh, what was his name? Mind you, he's part of the establishment now, so he's been bought by them. Ripping Yarns, that was what it was called.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Michael Palin.
Michael Palin, you know, what was about that? Was it his uncle and had every disease known? Come on, boy, I'll show you my boil. And when you get back,
I used to love that.
There's some classics on there. I saw one the other day. What was it now? About this family that were complete narcissistic, you know, and this woman, she's left on the moors, and they're very posh, and she's in distress. And, oh, did you see Felicity? Yes, we saw her. She did look quite distressed. Yeah, didn't bloody stop and pick her up. Just tried.
Just laughing at
But Neil Innes was a great loss as well. I used to like what was it now? They're on YouTube, the Innes Book of Records.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember that, yeah.
You can see all these fantastic shows now on YouTube. That's what I like, you know. Now, this is an interesting one.
We've read that one.
Oh, Christ, we haven't we? Never mind. It's this water. That's definitely what it is. There's something in the water.
It's not vodka.
It's vodka.
There you go, you see.
How can he go around the world if the world is flat? Well, we can make it look as if he's going around the world, can't he?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could say I'm going halfway around the world if I go.
Going round's just a phrase, isn't it?
Yes. Now,
Bob's going because he needs some sleep.
Does he really? What, your cat?
No, Bob Holyoke.
Oh, Bob Holyoke. I'd like to see Bob asleep, your cat. I bet he's have a tongue out the side of his mouth.
No, I don't. He did have his tongue out the other day, though. It was out quite a while. Just sat looking at me with his tongue out.
Bob cat, he always used to. Cat asleep. That's the one that used to headbutt cars, you know.
Strange cat.
That's right. Robert Dorr says psychopaths are incomplete human beings. They have at least
definitely at least.
Yes. Well, they're was it? And Bob has said Dr. Robert Hare from Canada. That's right. He's Canadian.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a hero of mine. I say hero. He's good, but no, psychopaths. Their frontal lobe is just blank, mainly blank, where we have got empathy. So we can sort of, well, most of us have, you know.
I have.
You have, yes. Very lot of empathy. I think I
can catch the end of a sad film and cry, or a documentary and like not even know what's going on and cry. Well, you've got to really keep a control of it.
Well, you know, they say that like people can. If you read the book Political Ponerology, that says that these psychopaths recognize other psychopaths.
Yeah.
I think because we're the other end of the scale, we're empathic. An empath knows another empath.
Yeah.
So you're empathic. You're an empath. I like to believe I am. It's up to other people to judge that. And that the trouble is that you feel the pain of others. Do you find that?
Yeah, yeah.
You do. Somebody tells you something sad, and you think, you get quite emotional about things. Yeah. But you're not a shrinking violet. That's the thing. You know, this is the thing. We got bad PR, us empaths, haven't we? Very bad PR. Yeah. They think, but there are generals and there's senior people that are empathic. You know.
Yeah, there's very few and far between them.
Oh yes, you know. You won't find any in the House of Commons.
No.
Yeah, since you're Dark Angel, maybe we're all looking. Hang on, we had that one, haven't we?
We've had that one. Where are you bringing these up from now?
I'm at a difficult age, you know.
You are, yeah.
I think it's that bit of trouble with the computer. Anyone remember Robbie Coltrane playing Lug with the comic strip Presents?
A long time ago, yeah.
That's a long time ago. He did a very interesting series about about engines, didn't he? Once. Yes, that was very, very good. It's a shame he's gone, isn't it? But I suppose he had the.
Wow.
That's it. Yes. It says here, what was it? Stewie said an interesting one. If it comes off, Musk is going after 40. Oh, ducky. Could get 40. Yes, yes. Now, Robert is interesting. Was it? I'm one of 9 children and can attest to Chris's theory. Meal times are like a rugby scrum.
You can imagine that, yeah. 9 of you.
Yes, and it was interesting what Miles said when I was actually in his shop the other day. It's very interesting sitting in his shop.
He said, "Get out."
Sorry? Huh?
He said it's interesting what he said when you were in his shop. I said, he said, "Get out."
That's right. He said, he actually gave me the Hawaiian greeting sign. It's 2 fingers. And it's what I used to, hello, No, sort of. But there was I can't obviously say who it was. I didn't know who it was, but a woman came in. And he might be able to clarify it because plug. This Thursday, he's on. Ooh. You're free on Thursday, aren't you, Deb?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
8 o'clock. Sharp.
What time?
8 o'clock it is, and it's Dr. Fleetwood, or to his mates, Miles. And as a woman said, she's talking something, and I was sort of trying to sit there as if I'm not hearing, but I bleed near wiggy,
Right,
in there. He says, lady says, I've got something to tell you about. Chris, can you go into the treatment room for a while? So I just sit in his treatment room, so I can't hear what's being said.
Don't up against the wall.
No, you can't hear anything. And she said, she had these different ailments, and she said she's got an older sister. She said, how old? He said, because if you're born within a certain time after a brother or sister, that firstborn has all the nutriments.
Right, yeah.
The mother takes time to build up those nutriments again. So the younger one is always the one that's ailing, not the older one. Now, I'm 8 years almost between my sisters, so I'm okay. But when I look at my family, my mother was born shortly after. She was only born about 18 months or something, or 2 years after another brother or sister. I can't remember now. And she was a sickly child. She was always ill.
I'm an only child, so I got them all, didn't I?
You got the whole lot. Yes. It's good, isn't it? Yeah. Good. That's
not interesting. Not very bloody good, like, but yeah.
There it says, Chris, you have the filthiest laugh. Yes, I think I'd be bad if I said some of my jokes on here.
It's all very carry on in that corner there. So anyway, Miles will be on Thursday, and you know Miles, he'll treat your piles.
Actually, he wants to be very professional, so I can't have my fart gags on there, can I? And I can't crack the constipated vicar joke, can I? So no, but we want to sort of loosen it up a bit. We get a bit of the old, because
he's got remedies for all that, hasn't he?
He's got remedies.
He's loosening it up.
Do you know, it really is sitting in his because I go over there sometimes Wednesdays to speak about the show, but I don't think I'll be able to go over there this Wednesday because of bleeding snow and ice and that. Mind you, I don't think he might be able to get into work, but it's really interesting sitting in his shop, the different type of people that was coming in,
right.
And some generally very nice people, but you do get a few weirdos coming in.
Well, I can imagine that.
Yes. Yes, there's some interesting ones here. Check out the Funky Prepper. Hang on, what's this? How'd you check out the Funky Prepper? Friday. Oh, hang on, this clashes, doesn't it?
Clashes with the 12th dimension.
Yes. Have we got an advert coming up for that? Because we haven't done one.
Did you upload it? The new one?
Let's have the new one, shall we?
Have we got the new one? Okay, I haven't put it on.
Oh, sod it. No, we haven't put it on. Oops. Hang on, where is it on?
But I shall do it for next week. But we need to put the link for the music in the bottom. The what is it?
Disclaimer.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, hang on. I've got the Miles intro there. And hey, whilst we're looking at it, do you want a bit of what I think of the government. Here it comes.
I've resigned. I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own.
Yes, he knew his stuff.
He knew his stuff. That's the sort of bloke we want leading stuff.
We want him for Prime Minister.
Right, that's it. Prime Minister. You've done a bloody good job here of filing all these. You're very accurate, but the trouble is I can't believe you find.
Which one are you looking for?
Oh, I got it. Here it comes. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Except it's the 12th dimension now.
It's 12th dimension. And also, you've got a YouTube site.
I've got a YouTube channel.
Let's give that a plug, shall we?
Go on, then.
Have we got an advert for it, have we?
Didn't I do one? I thought I did one.
Did you? Let's have a look.
I don't know. I'm sure I did. Did I do one and not upload it?
Got one on taxidermy.
Yeah. Taxidermy. Taxidermy services.
I don't think you did then.
I don't think I did. What am I like?
So what's it called?
It's just, if anybody wants to subscribe to my channel, all you do is click on the name in YouTube chat and it'll take you to my channel and just click subscribe.
It's down, I think it's under the a description thing.
I think you did.
Yes, and you can also buy Deb a coffee as well as myself a coffee.
We can.
So we can both for coffee. We both, we both have coffees.
Yes.
I think get the wrong end of the stick, don't they? You know, I mean, went into a draper's shop the other day and said, "Excuse me, can you?" To a young lady there, I said, "Can you tell me where I can get felts?" And she'd smack me around the face. I just don't know why. I mean, why do people get the the wrong end of the stick?
I don't know. Dirty minds.
Filthy minds. I said.
Filthy minds.
It's strange we didn't do that.
I need to upload that. I haven't done that. That's weird.
Yes. And of course, we've got this beautiful book.
Yes. That many a time in the 70s and 80s.
Yes, here we are.
Unpleasant.
I think between you and I, cabbage and Guinness must be about the worst combination there could ever be in the history of
cabbage cooked in Guinness, obviously.
That's right. I was talking to somebody the other day. I went to this. I'll be very anonymous who it was. I went to this. There's a stand in the park thing, a different one that has a meet up in a pub in Hertford. You see, they're very nice people, very, very, very pleasant people. And I was standing talking to somebody. Unbelievable cabbage and Guinness smell wafted up. And I was thinking, hope this person doesn't think it's me. And I looked down, there's a bloody dog down. Dog that did. Fuck. I said,
the person's thinking to himself, God, I hope he don't think that's me.
But that's right. Please no. Christ, there's something crawled up his backside and died. You know what I mean? Fuck. I think something's crawled up his arse and died, isn't it? You know, the old dog sitting there going, I felt that's right. There's no smoking in this pub.
I think what you need to do with future references, make some little disclaimers. Disclaimer slips out. If you can smell something, that's not me. That's what I do anyway. You like a compliment slip, but just a disclaimer. There's no confusion.
Did I ever tell you about Tom?
Oh dear.
Did I ever tell you about Tom the Pong? I think I did. Yeah, Tom the Pong. There's a pong. I used to work in this place. And There's a bloke at the worst BO you could ever wish to think of. And he used to cycle in from some shithole, I don't know, in London or something. This was in London. And he had a girlfriend that must have had no sense of smell whatsoever. And it was one of these places, it had a 2-person lift, you know, the small lifts, 2 or 3 persons. And one morning I got, and it was a damp morning, you know, that sort of damp morning in early sort of September.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, "Oh, come on," and it's where you have to close the door. And he got in the lift, closed the door. I almost flaked out with the stench.
Oh no!
So, you know, a kebab shop. It was the kebab BO. That was what it was. So whoever smelt it dealt it. But it wasn't me on that occasion. Anyway, he used to shop at the end of the office. His name was Tom, and they called him Tom the Pong. And he lent a book from me, and he had it for the weekend. And when he gave it back, I put it in my briefcase. And when I got home, I could smell Tom the Pong. I had to put it outside. It stunk so bad. It was sort of, what the bloody...
That's not good, is it?
No, he had a real serious problem. You cut your eyes if you walked. But he used to walk in. You think he's got this shitty old T-shirt on, jeans, and then in front of the secretary, he'd strip down to his underpants, then put his sort of nice posh suit, you know, tie, jacket on.
Over his lucky body.
And his white shirt that hadn't really seen a washing machine for a long time. Wear that all day, take it off, and then change it to his jeans and T-shirt and cycle home. You know, Hatchie. I'll never forget the time I worked in retail, and the daft lady that took the call put it out on the loudspeaker. Is there a milk Mike Hunt in the store? Only your wife needs you.
That's another one. That's one from me. That's one from me.
Did that? You China's. There was one. Tell you what I saw. You know these YouTube short films I've got now, like TikTok, where it showed a bloke in America, you know, sort of with a pair of shorts on, and there was a telephone, which was a kind of I suppose use it as a public address system. Yeah. He went up to it, put the phone to his backside. I'd love to do that.
No, we'd never have got away with that at M&S.
Oh. How M&S, did you find that it was a really weird place to work?
Yes.
Very cliquey.
Yes. There were certain cliques, and there was like the outside ones that weren't in the cliques. They used to take the piss out of the ones that were in the cliques.
Yeah. There's a woman that works down the road in the M&S, because I take the shortcut through M&S to get the Tesco's.
To get to the toilets.
Get the toilets. The crappers are pretty good in there, actually. I go for a labby, you know. And they're sort of... They act as if they're in some London department store. It's a bit like, are you being served? You know,
yeah, it is, yeah.
The portion. But don't we say, is there somebody that's colourblind that chooses the clothing for that place?
Oh, mine was black and green. At the time, I think they've changed it again now, I'm not sure.
Men's clothing.
Oh, you mean in the like for sale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A luminous yellow, bright red. Horrible.
Yeah,
it's
like the women's pattern stuff. I mean, you're looking at patterns that would be carpets in the 1960s, or sofas or curtains. I'm like, who'd walk about looking like that?
But also their furniture. I mean, I had to look at their furniture, and it looked like something out of a 1970s flat pack furniture, and the bleeding door almost fell off. And this thing was about 3 times the price that you go down to IKEA and get.
Yeah.
About 2/3. I mean, I don't like flat pack furniture, full stop. But it's all tacky. It was shit. And somebody got me a barometer, and I thought this barometer was, you know, the bee's knees. And looked at it, it's plastic. And it costs a lot of money. Go and buy a bleeding brass one on eBay for half the price. But anyway, shall we have a quick gander in the old chat? I started, what's this? Where are we now? We've got a hell of a lot in chat tonight. So we got our fart jokes in. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Now,
we did wait till John went.
Yes. I don't think he likes our fart jokes. I know. Let's make Thursday's show exciting. Get some fart jokes in.
Miles will be coming up with what is it for him? Remedies.
Remedies. His tablets.
Got a problem. Paul's gone.
Later, people. Later. Anyway, we come up to our time.
That's
finally.
Interesting. Louise has lit a fart before you said no. No, my luck, I just burned the entire house down.
Well, I've told you about that time when I took that girl out and had some Coca-Cola, and I busted her a fart. And we drove all the way home, and the concentration on keeping a fart in is like a sort of a Tibetan monk. You know, you're serenely thinking, I'm going to keep this in. And it was on one of these roads that are a bit bumpy. So
Oh, no. You can twist your bowel doing that. You know, I know somebody that did that.
Really?
Gone round to his auntie and uncle's and he didn't fart. He ended up in hospital because he twisted his bowel.
Good heavens.
Holding it in.
Well, I was holding it in, and it's very similar to what you see on YouTube. She got out the car, everything went, broke winds, then she opened the door and said, what time next week or something? That actually did happen, you know. That's something. Oh, I mean, that had been held in for about an hour, you know.
Oh no. No.
But it was fermenting, you know. Anyway, this is our fart. Yes, folks, we finished with the fart jokes.
Yes, let's finish with the farts.
Yeah. Actually, we could actually do a show on
Farts.
Farts. we could do a show actually about the paranormal and have John as if he's on Skype. You know, are you there, John? Are you with us?
Yeah, we could do that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But so if anybody knows how we can get John with his delightful computer on the.
Yeah.
I think the way to actually do it is go to John's house and chuck the computer out the window and get another one. Actually, I think that is possibly the answer to the problem.
Yeah, the way to go.
That's definitely a forward way. Anyway, what's coming up is Miles will be on this Thursday at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
On his, he does it once a month special.
Yes.
And we're going to try and make it. I haven't spoken to him yet because he's been so busy. He's been very busy, but I think he should speak for a quarter of an hour. We have a little break and then another quarter of an hour, little break, and then into the chat room. That would make it, that give it a bit of interest. And who votes for me doing a few fart jokes, right? And Deb and I doing a few fart jokes. I think that's what it needs, that show.
Yeah, I've got a superb one. It does go on a while, but I like it.
Yeah. What, the fart?
Fart jokes.
Just fart jokes. So anyway, we've got Michelle coming on next Monday.
Now she knows.
Now she knows. She didn't know before, did she?
No.
And she's going to use a proper computer. A proper one. Not a bleeding apple, you know. So she'll work, so we can have a test run beforehand. Then after Christmas, we got Professor Moss coming on.
Yes.
And isn't that a strange bit of synchronicity? She's had a bit of trouble, Yeah. And she's in a bit of shock as well. She was really quite upset what happened with her. Mm. So, but we're not going to dwell on that. No. We're not going to dwell on what I said. We're going to look on things about humanity and why the truth movement has sort of lost its way in a way. Yeah. So we're going to look at things like that, egos. And then after that, we might have a shrink. No, She's got a good sense of humour. She knows that. Anyway, so it's going to be an exciting, and also we're hoping to get Shannon minus the glove puppets on. Yes, talking about numerology.
All right. Yeah.
Yes, and I promise if the glove puppets come back, I'll go over there and personally strangle them. So there we go.
Sock puppets will be tied in a knot and wanged.
Yes, that's it. Anyway, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to John, but not actually being able to see it.
Well, the saw picture of it's enough. They know what it looks like.
Yeah. And so please join us. Same time. Oh, hang on. Same time next week. Same time, same place, but on Thursday, this Thursday, we've got a bonus. And also next Monday, where we've got a mystery guest called Michelle coming on.
Yes.
It's not a mystery now because she knows.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, thanks for joining us. And remember, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. Thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you. It's all free. Night. Here we go.
Take care.
End the credit.